Designing concentric or radial symmetry is probably even more exciting than doing normal symmetry. And the techniques I'm going to show you in this video are more like magic tricks. So if you learn these, you can really impress your friends or your colleagues at work. So let me start with something very basic. Let's just say I draw a circle. Holding down the Shift key, I make sure it's a perfect circle. And I would like to create a concentric symmetry and use this point here as the center point. Now, what I would do, first of all, is to switch to the rotate tool. And then I click on the point which I want to keep as my center point. You can even put down guides from both sides. So put down a vertical guide and then a horizontal guide as well onto that point, just so you remember what is your center point. And then click and dragging, you can start rotating the shape around. And to start with, let's hold down the Shift key and also the Alt key. So it's duplicating and also turning 45 degrees. You can turn the other way as well, it doesn't matter. As long as you hold down Shift and Alt or Option together, that will create a duplicate, and it will also make sure that the angle of rotation is 45 degrees. Now, you don't actually need to keep repeating this because there is an amazing feature. From the object transform, we can find transform again. If I click on that, you see it will repeat exactly what I did before. So not only rotating the shape, but also duplicating it. And the shortcut is Control or Command D, which you just press a couple of times, and you can build a beautiful shape. Now, once you have your nice design like this, you can select all your shapes together. So that's what I'm going to do, and change the color. Instead of using stroke on it, I'm going to set all of them using the same blue color. And then I'm going to apply a blend mode on them. So the overlapping parts will change color. So what I will do is click on opacity here on the top and choose multiply or overlay, which is also nice, or screen. And it's really up to you. You can play around with all the other options as well. And you can, of course, also change the opacity. So if you want to play around with that, that's also a nice thing to do. So let's have a look at the design. And as you can see, it's very easy to create something like this. And of course, you never have to stop there because you can always add additional shapes. Let's just say I want to have another circle here, which I'm going to align onto the guide that I created. And I maybe change the color of this, make it a little bit darker. Then use again rotate tool, click on the center point, and then start moving this. And this time I will try to align this to a certain angle instead of 45 degrees because that would be too far away. I'm going to do, let's say, 20 degrees like that. But I forgot to hold down the Alt, so it didn't get duplicated. So let me undo that step. And again, click and drag first once you have the center of symmetry placed down. And now don't forget to hold down Alt or Option. And once you get a good degree, in this case I actually would like to try to find the 18 degrees. It is a little bit tricky, but the further away you move from the center point, the easier it will be to find the angle that you're looking for. And there's almost 18 degrees. It doesn't have to be extremely precise, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And now I'm going to press Command D or Control D, and you can see how quickly we can create all the rest of the shapes. Now, the reason why I want it to be 18 degrees, because that's a number that can use to divide 360. So any number that you can use to divide 360, which is a full circle, and still get a normal number at the end, so not a fraction, then that means you will have an even array of shapes once you finish duplicating them. Now, just like in the previous video, you can also use the transform effect, and with that you can create even more interesting results. So let me clear my guides first of all. I just come down to guides, clear guides. I'm going to select this, group it, and maybe make it smaller just so we can keep it here on the side. But let's create now another shape. I am just going to draw something quickly with the pen tool as an example. So I will click, shift click, and then draw a line like this, just to have a shape. And I'm going to actually press Shift X so it's using only the outline. I'm just going to slightly amend that portion of the path, and also add a little bit of finesse here at the end. I'm going to include an additional curl, just like that, just so we have something a little bit more exciting. Now, once it's selected, I can group this, Command G or Control G, and then go up to the Effect menu, choose Distort, Transform, Transform. And now we have to set this up slightly differently than in the previous video. Of course, I will turn on Preview. And then first of all, what I need to decide is how many copies I want. Let's say if I want 10 copies, then I have to divide 360 by 10, which will be 36. That's quite an easy division, which means each copy will be rotated 36 degrees, and that creates this perfect concentric symmetry shape that we can see here. So that's how easy it was. Now, another brilliant thing is that you can change the horizontal and vertical movement of the copies. So let me just click in vertical move and press up and down arrows, and see it. I can almost animate how it's going to work. I can even go in minus, and then it goes the opposite direction. See how much variety we can get immediately. So it looks like a chainsaw at this point, then it looks more like a floral design. And of course, once you click OK, this becomes a live effect, which is similar to the previous example, which means we can always click on it and make amends to it. So I can maybe add some horizontal change to it, so horizontal move. And once again, we can get completely different results there as well. And that's not all, because what you can also do is to add more elements. So if I click OK, let's say this is something that we want to use as a basic structure. What we can do is to double click on this group. So now we are within the group which has that effect on it. That means if I draw a new element, I'm using the circle tool or ellipse tool, it's going to be repeated automatically everywhere else. Once again, if I draw another circle here, that will be again repeated. And I can also select the shape that we had originally and make amends to it, increase the stroke size, for example, change the color of it. And then again, we can select these circles, change the color once again. And as you can see, we can very quickly make amazing designs by just playing around with these values. If you feel like it's too complex, you can even simplify the effect. Just double click outside and then select your group. Click on the transform option. So let's say you want to have 8 copies instead of 10. You just type that in, and then again you have to divide 360 by 8, which is going to be 45, and then you turn on preview and immediately you get a completely different design. The same way you can go down to 6 copies, but then to make this work and make it even, again you have to increase the angle. In this case, that will be 60. And of course, if you want to make it more thicker and more complex, you can go up instead of going down with the copies. So let's say 20 copies. That would be again 360 divided by 20, which is 18. So that's 18 degrees. There you go. We have an even more complex design here. And don't forget, you can play around with the horizontal and vertical positioning as well. It almost became like a shutter on a camera. So you can create very cool animations with this. And that's what I meant, that it's almost like a magic trick. So if you know how to use this transform effect, both for normal symmetry and concentric symmetry, you can achieve great results very quickly and easily. But just to inspire you, with these techniques, you will be able to create amazing designs like these mandalas. Here's a nice one, or there's another one here. Let me just scroll down a bit. I found these on Pinterest, but you can come up with your own designs. And of course, once you add colors to them, they can look amazing. So that could be one way to practice using these techniques, is to try to create your own mandala design. But just as always, at the end of each chapter, I'm going to give you a main exercise, which is going to be a manual tracing project in which you have to recreate this simple drawing by using all the different drawing techniques that we've learned in this chapter.